Gretchen points the pistol sloppily at her husband. The weapon sways unsteadily as her hands shake. Hans looks at her slack-jawed in disbelief. He takes a step towards her, hands outstretched towards the gun.
When you've calmed down, you'll understand.
No!
He's shot in the shoulder, which stops him from advancing.
More!
He ducks, and she misses. He turns to run.
Lies!
The last shot hits him in the back of his head, and he drops to the floor. From the other side of the door, Cornelia and Elisabeth leap backwards as a sudden rush of blood floods out from under the door. Elisabeth jiggles the doorknob. It's locked. Cornelia turns and runs out of the room. Back in the office, Gretchen sets the pistol on the desk. She tears down a Nazi flag that hangs on the wall and carries it over to Hans's body and wraps his head with the flag to catch the blood. She stands over him for a moment, then moves back to the window, reaching for the pistol. The sound of Cornelia shouting for her mother and fumbling with the lock feel far away in Gretchen's mind.
It's all right, darling. Everything is fine now. I fixed it. It's over now.
Gretchen places the pistol in her mouth with a sickening clatter of teeth on metal. Cornelia and Elisabeth burst through the door as she pulls the trigger. There's nothing but ringing in the ears. A red puff of blood explodes from Gretchen's head, and her stylish hat flies across the room and onto Elisabeth's feet. The girls are frozen, stunned by the horrific moment. Blood pools around the dead bodies of Hans and Gretchen. Cornelia screams silently as the ringing continues. The sun has dipped below the trees now, but Cornelia remains frozen in shock on the floor of her father's office. Elisabeth sits in an awkward silence beside her.
Cornelia, I think we should call someone.
No.
We can't stay here for...
A banging on the front door of the house cuts her off. Elisabeth whips her head around. She instinctively grabs for the pistol on the floor.
Anyone there? Hello? This is Inspector Müller.
I have to go.
No, don't leave me.
General Wolfgang and I are coming in.
I must hide. Don't let them know I'm here.
Pistol still in hand, Elisabeth scurries around the corner. She tucks herself back into Max's secret hiding spot as she tries to steady her breathing. Wolfgang strides into the room, Inspector Müller at his heels. The men take a few steps back when they realise they've waded into a pool of blood. They take in the scene.
My God.
You did this.
Inspector Müller carefully glances up from his notebook to Wolfgang with a question on his brow. Wolfgang shakes his head at him quickly before levelling his gaze on the girl.
You're disoriented. The inspector and I have only just arrived, child.
You took Max. You did this. You killed my family.
He leans in close to Müller's ear to explain under his breath.
My friend Hans here recently decided to give his son Max to the state. I helped him. The boy had a deformity. As you can see, it appears the wife did not support this decision. The girl is understandably hysterical.
Müller nods and scribbles down a few notes into his book. Wolfgang bends down to inspect Hans.
My poor friend, you were a good nationalist socialist.
He stands, comes to attention, and throws his arm up in a Nazi salute. Müller shifts his weight between his feet as Cornelia's eyes blaze with rage. She can't help herself. She spits out,
I'll kill you.
What was that?
He turns slowly to face the girl, still sitting on her knees in the pool of blood.
Inspector, please give us a moment.
Müller pauses, then chokes down whatever he considered saying. He steps out and closes the door. Wolfgang slowly puts on his black leather gloves and pulls his SS knife from its scabbard. Cornelia holds her breath, eyes wide with fear. From Max's hiding place behind the wall, Elisabeth's eyes mirror Cornelia's. She instinctively reaches for the stolen pistol. Now eye to eye with her, Wolfgang places the handle of the knife into Cornelia's hands and angles the point of the blade towards his neck. Cornelia's fury has turned to fear. He edges her hands closer to his neck. She resists.
Well, go ahead. Kill me.
A sly grin pulls up the corners of his mouth as Cornelia begins to cry and shake. She looks away. Wolfgang grabs her face and forces her to look at him.
You will never kill me. Never.
He pulls her by the chin, forcing her to stand.
Now, enough of this silliness. Let's get you taken care of, shall we?
Wolfgang wipes the knife on her dress and places it in its scabbard. He removes his gloves and takes out a handkerchief. He dabs it on his tongue and roughly wipes the spots of blood on Cornelia's face. The blood smears, leaving a long streak.
Inspector!
Cornelia jumps at his shout. He smiles and pockets the handkerchief. Inspector Müller opens the door.
Yes, sir.
I'm done here. Complete your report and forward it to me.
Yes, General.
Wolf exits the room and walks to the front door, followed by the inspector. He turns and points at the bloody footprints on the carpet. Wolfgang raises his eyebrows, shrugs, and departs. Müller closes the door after him and returns to the office. Cornelia hasn't moved a muscle. Müller clears his throat awkwardly.
Miss
Cornelia.
Miss Cornelia, is there anyone I can call for you, a family member who can take care of you?
Take care of me?
Cornelia is in a trance, completely numb.
Well, considering what has transpired,
Müller shuffles through his notebook, struggling to find the words.
how about we come out to the foyer?
He gently takes her arm and leads her away from the bodies of her dead parents and into the dimly lit foyer.
My uncle and aunt are visiting. I'll go to them.
Good. I can drive you.
No. They're just a few blocks away.
At least let me walk you there. You've been through quite a lot.
I'm fine. Truly, I just wish to be with my family.
All right, then. I'll just need to finish my report and have my team clear out the room. You can come back in a few days to get your belongings.
Thank you, Inspector.
Müller gives her a nod and returns to the office. Cornelia stares at the dark house around her, the weight of its silence overwhelming. Her face crumples as she throws open the door and sprints down the stairs. Fritz walks steadily down the dirt path to the warehouse district. He looks over his shoulder before ducking into the first door. A single lit candle marks the entry to the second door. He pushes through the door to find the training room filled with people, some in chairs, others on the floor, all gathered for a meeting of some kind. Fritz nestles himself in a corner and attempts to blend in. A red-headed woman across the room catches his gaze. She narrows her eyes at him and he quickly looks to the floor. A moment later, however, Fritz is hauled to his feet and out the door. It's his contact, the man from the train that night.
Easy, Alistair. It's me.
What are you doing here?
I needed to learn more about Sparrow.
You're not welcome here. I thought I made myself clear in our correspondence.
As did I. Knowing she is alive is not enough. I need to know her location.
You don't need anything, Father. You work for us. Remember, you hide the people we need hiding. That's it. Leave the rest of our operations to us.
I can't do that. Not regarding this. I can help you. I have a clue that might be of value.
Our people are already on it. I'm not going to warn you again. Stay out of it.
Fritz attempts to walk past him into the meeting. The man puts his arm up to block the way.
You're not understanding me. Let me speak to someone else.
You need to leave.
Fritz moves to duck under his outstretched arm when the man lands a hard hit in his ribs. Fritz gasps for air. He leans against the doorframe but doesn't move to leave. The man hits him again, this time in the jaw, and pushes him towards the exit. He spits as Fritz hobbles off into the night, clutching his side. From inside the room, Iris watches him go. Fritz arrives back to the parish house, moving slowly. The house is dark and quiet, no one to be seen through the windows of the front door. He catches a glimpse of his reflection in the window. His face is already swollen. He grimaces and creeps through the halls as quietly as he can. He beelines for his room, then pauses. His hand hovers over the handle. He glances down the hall and catches a glimmer of candlelight coming from under KARL's door. Before he can talk himself out of it, he tiptoes over and knocks quietly.
KARL! Are you awake?
A long pause. Then the door creaks open.
Oh, Fritz. How can... Lord, your face! Come in, sit.
KARL guides Fritz to the chair beside his desk. Fritz eases in slowly, holding his ribs.
It turns out you were right about my night walks.
You're hurt. What happened to you?
A man tried to mug me. Blessedly, I carried nothing of value, so he bored quickly of me.
KARL brings over a basin of water and cloths.
Fritz, you could have been killed.
He dips a cloth in water and dabs gently at a cut on Fritz's jaw.
But I wasn't.
You could have been. So easily. You have to be more careful, Fritz. I can't lose you.
Fritz suddenly realizes how close they are. KARL crouches in front of him, one hand on his knee, the other holding the cloth to his face. They're nearly nose to nose. Fritz's heart is in his throat.
I mean, we can't.
KARL trails off, lost in Fritz's gaze. He turns his head slightly, and their lips brush ever so softly. Fritz lifts a hand up to cup KARL's face, pressing their foreheads together. They breathe in unison for a long moment. Fritz leans in and gives him a slow, deep kiss, then stands slowly and takes the cloth from KARL's hands as he backs towards the door.
Thank you.
Fritz,
I'm all right. I'll see you tomorrow.
Violet and Elizabeth burst through the door into the secret cellar the next morning at dawn. Well, hello to you too, ladies. Didn't realise you were that excited for training.
Wake up! You have to hear what Elizabeth saw yesterday.
Iris nudges HANNA, who is curled up in a ball on the couch, asleep. Elizabeth is already at the desk in the corner, scribbling notes onto a page. Violet dumps her bag out next to Elizabeth. The stolen pistol and a bundle of money spill out on the table. Holy shit, where'd that cash come from? What happened?
There's this girl at school, Cornelia. Her family was wealthy.
And she never lets us forget it, the bitch.
Yesterday she was behaving rather strangely. She nearly knocked Violet over. She was so out of it.
All right. But what about it?
So I realise she's really not all right because she asks if I can walk her home.
Which is odd because they're definitely more enemies than friends.
Right. So I walk her home and think that's the end of it, but then we hear arguing in the other room, and then her mother kills her father and then herself. Just bang. Right there in front of us.
And this domestic tragedy is important to us. Why?
Because, after a while, General Wolfgang shows up. At the house. He was supposedly close friends with Cornelia's father and came with the inspector to investigate.
With the inspector? You spoke to them?
No, I was hidden. They didn't know I was there.
Good.
I snuck out while they were all in the room, figured they didn't need these anymore, so we might as well put them to good use.
She gestures proudly to the stolen money. Iris begins to count it. We certainly will. Well done, you.
But that's not all. Elizabeth thinks Cornelia might be able to help us.
A girl like that? Doubtful.
She could probably tell us more about them, their schedules, their meetings. Anthony works for Wolfgang, Iris.
She has a point. And the sooner we get rid of Anthony, the sooner we can focus fully on finding our mother.
Didn't you just say that you weren't even friends with this girl? Why would she talk to you? Especially after what happened.
I like the way you're thinking, Elizabeth. But I agree with HANNA. It's too risky for no guaranteed help. We can find out what we need to know in other ways.
But what if she knows something that could lead to Mama?
I promise you, we will figure it out.
But
I promise. But today, in addition to your morning run, we need to work on your knife skills.
Why knives?
The way I operate is all about being up close and personal. Intimate. It's nearly impossible to hide a gun in those situations, but a knife. She reveals the various hidden items on her person. In her boot, strapped to her thigh, under her skirt, in her coat pocket.
So they don't see it coming.
Exactly. We're women. They already don't suspect us. That gives us an edge, an easy way to get close. Iris walks over to a cupboard and opens it, revealing a treasure trove of weapons. Guns, knives, even a crossbow fill the shelves. She pulls out a leather-wrapped parcel and unrolls it on the table. All four women cluster around the sleeve of various knives. Iris looks to Elizabeth. Pick one. Elizabeth scans the row of pointy objects. She points to a knife about the length of a ruler. That's an FS fighting knife. The Brits made that one. Very efficient, but a little harder to hide.
What about these then?
Boot knives. Pretty self-explanatory. One of the better balanced options, which makes them good for throwing, too. We'll practice that.
And this one?
The tuk-tuk. French. My personal favourite for our line of business. Small. Effective.
Then let's start with that one. What do we need to know?
Before we stab, we need to know what we're aiming for. Any guesses?
Throat?
Messy, but yes.
Heart?
Liver.
Yes, and yes. There's also the back of the knee, base of the neck, and the lungs.
Jesus, there are so many ways to die.
So what are the motions then?
To simplify, I need you to know how to slash and stab. But it's not as easy as it sounds. We have to build your muscle memory. Here, take one of these and repeat after me. Iris hands each girl a tuk-tuk, and they line up like ducklings behind her, following her every move. For the next 4 hours, she leads them through the different knife drills until she's satisfied with their progress. Elizabeth and Violet walk home. Elizabeth jumps and skips with gusto, playfully pretending to stab Violet with their new knife skills. They both laugh loudly when suddenly they bump into their neighbour, Mrs. Guterman, at the corner. She nearly drops the groceries she's carrying and glares at them.
Girls, watch where you're going. Every time I see you two, you're acting like children. I ought to have a word with your mother. Is she home?
Not yet, Mrs. Guterman, but we expect her soon. Our aunt is getting better.
Well, that is good to hear. How a respected fine artist like your mother can have wildings for children, I'll never understand.
Mrs. Guterman, where is your son? We haven't seen him recently.
Of course, you haven't. Mark has very important duties to attend to. He doesn't run around acting like a child.
Oh, I see. It's just that Violet has always greatly admired him and she'd really like to see him again.
Elizabeth!
Don't be shy, Violet. Mrs. Guterman is very wise about matters of the heart. I'm sure she's noticed your feelings for him.
Oh, I see. He is quite the catch. I'm afraid he has no time for fun these days, due to his position working with General Wolfgang. Only the occasional walk in the zoo. But I'm sure he'd remember you if you happened to bump into him there.
She waggles her eyebrows at Violet. This is by far the nicest Mrs. Guterman has ever been to the girls. Elizabeth forces down a laugh.
The zoo. Hear that, Violet? You should spend more time at the zoo.
Elizabeth can't help herself. She pokes her sister in the ribs and lets out a giggle. Violet's face is beet red. She grabs Elizabeth's wrist and drags her towards home.
Thank you, Mrs. Guterman. Tell Mark to expect to see Violet at the zoo soon. Goodbye.
Mrs. Guterman is so charmed by the conversation about her son that she raises a hand in farewell. Violet keeps hold of her sister as they walk briskly in the direction of their house.
What the hell are you doing?
Oh, so you don't want to get close to the General?
You're too clever for your own good, little girl.
She grabs Elizabeth's head playfully and pretends to shove a knife in her throat. They both laugh as they walk up the path to their home. That evening, Fritz brings dinner to the Fisher home. The three cousins dig into their meal of beef and potatoes quietly, exhausted.
How was your week, Fritz?
Blessedly less eventful than the last. I hope you two have been keeping quiet like I asked.
He gives the girls a pointed look.
We have. Was everything all right with our friends?
Yes. I brought them to the safe house without incident, but the whole ordeal certainly cast some unwanted attention my way from my brothers. We can't have any more situations like that. You understand?
Of course. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. We did a good thing.
Have you heard any news about Mama?
That's actually what I wanted to discuss with you.
Oh, no.
You have news?
I know she's alive.
Thank God.
Where is she? Do they have her?
I don't know. My companion quite insisted that I not ask more questions and stay out of it.
He lifts his shirt to reveal his bruised ribs.
Oh, Fritz! What happened?
I'm all right. Everything is all right.
Who the hell did this to you?
It's better that you not know. I'm not giving up on Maria, all right? I'll just have to try a new avenue. You girls keep doing exactly what you've been doing.
Violet and Elizabeth exchange a guilty glance.
In the meantime, though, I could use your help with something. If you're interested. I'd been hoping that one of the people your mother works with would assist me with cracking this code, seeing that they spoke with actions rather than words. However, I never got the chance.
So you want us to help you?
Yes, as meddlesome as you two are, there's no denying you're clever. A fresh perspective on this could help us figure it out. I know it has to mean something.
Anything that will help us find Mama will do it, Fritz. Though I have to admit, this looks as much like gibberish as the first time I read it.
I know. But there must be something there.
We can figure it out. I know we can.
Good. And I'll let you know if my other avenue is more successful. In the meantime, don't take the letter from the house, all right? Work in secret. And no more getting involved in wild situations. You hear me?
We promise.
Students filter out of the classroom. Elizabeth gathers her papers and books, packing them neatly into her satchel. She dozed off in class twice today and spent the rest of her lessons mulling over the coded message Fritz had returned to them the night before. She'd been impressed by the work he'd done so far. Pulling out all the capital letters from the message seemed like the obvious first thread to pull, though they still formed yet another string of gibberish. She had organised and reorganised the letters in her mind, to no avail. The other part of the message that she couldn't stop mulling over were the out-of-place words that had been capitalised. Dawdle, noon, morning. And then there was the list of what seemed like ingredients. Hemlock, radish, ink, elderflower, watercress, and pepper. Suddenly, a hand reaches out and snatches a book from her desk before she can grab it. It's Ansel, a boyish grin already present on his face.
Excuse you?
Haven't seen you around in a while, Elisa.
I've been busy with family obligations.
Well, when will you be done being busy?
I don't know, Ansel. May I have my book back now?
You said I'd have to steal a book to get your attention, didn't you?
I didn't mean it seriously, though.
I think you did.
Ansel.
Elizabeth, let me know when you want your book back, and I can give it to you. On a date.
Ansel, no, I don't think that's a good idea.
What? I don't understand.
You don't actually want to date me, I promise. May I have my book back, please?
Dumbstruck and heartbroken, Ansel hands her the book and rushes from the room. Elizabeth stares at the book in her hands, wondering what she'd done. HANNA sits alone at the desk in the corner of the secret cellar. She has 2 candles in front of her, one lit, one unlit. She recites a Hebrew prayer as she lights the second candle.
Yit gadal v'yit gadash shamei rabbah be alma divra hirute vi amlik malhute be hai yahon uvyo mehon uvkaye deho bet Israel ba'a gala uvizman kariv be'imaru. Amen.
As HANNA recites the prayer, she doesn't notice Violet enter the cellar. She stands silently behind her, taking in the moment. Violet moves to set her bag down and sit on the couch when she accidentally knocks over a stack of books. Violet freezes. HANNA whips around with a yelp as they fall to the floor.
What are you doing?
I'm sorry. Elizabeth stayed late at school, so I got here early and I didn't want to interrupt you. I can leave. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. You just scared me is all.
Are you certain? This seems private.
It's the Yahrzeit, or anniversary of my parents' deaths. We, my brother and I, light a candle for them every year. You're meant to let them burn for an entire day until they burn out on their own, to remember them.
It's beautiful.
Though I wonder if Ezra forgot this year. He and Rebecca are still sitting in shiva for the baby. If they made it, I suppose. My mother would have said I shouldn't be here with them. But to me, it's a reminder what the Nazis have taken that from us too. The time we should be spending mourning our dead is spent wondering if we'll be next.
Violet reaches out to squeeze HANNA's hand.
They did make it. My cousin told us last night that they are safe.
Thank you. Tell him thank you. I will find some way to repay him. All of you.
Well, there's no debt, HANNA.
My Bobby. She would take my face in her hands and she would say, "Live a happy life, my little bunny. That is the only true revenge." She may be right about that, but something in me knows I'm meant for the other kind. The type of revenge only blood can satisfy.
You can have both, Hannah. You will have both. We're going to make them pay for everything. And one day you will be safe and free and maybe even happy. All right?
Hannah just nods as tears blur her vision. Violet gives her one last squeeze, then pretends to be suddenly very interested in inspecting the board of targets. Hannah stares into the flames as Elizabeth and Iris make their way into the cellar.
Sorry I'm late.
Got lost in Ansel Bergman's dreamy eyes, did you?
Seems more like it was his mouth she got lost in.
I did not.
Ansel, huh?
It's nothing, all right. I ended it. Let's train.
Good. You'll need complete focus to find your mother.
What do you mean?
You want to find her and stay alive, no?
Obviously.
Love makes one stupid. A soft heart and a soft brain will only get your friends killed. Elizabeth and Violet glance at Hannah with a sideways look as if Iris is overreacting. But Hannah just shrugs grimly.
The more people you love just gives these assholes more ways to hurt you.
She throws her hand loosely towards the board of photographs.
No one is falling in love, all right?
Iris wipes her hands together as if ending the conversation, then starts to drag a crate to the centre of the room from the corner. She stacks several sacks on top of one another.
Can I ask you something?
Depends on what it is.
How did you start working with the Resistance?
They're called the Impressionists. It's a long story, but Hugo's to thank for that.
Really?
Hugo's been the only one there for me since my mother died, so it's hard to say no to him, that bastard. He fought in the Great War, you know.
But why? You could have gone back to America. Why did you choose to stay and fight?
Same reason as you. I have nothing left to lose. I hate these assholes, and the Impressionists are trying to get rid of them. I have all this space, so passing information and acting as a safe house is the least I can do.
Well, I think it's brave of you. Thank you.
Iris gives her a long look, then a nod before turning to Elizabeth and pointing at the board. Pick one.
What?
Pick a target. Who shall we fight today?
Anthony.
Good. Iris plucks Anthony's photo from the board and pins it to the top sack in the pile. We're going to practice our drills with this dummy today. Hugo said no more blood in the cellar, so it's the closest thing I can get you to a real person for now.
So what exactly is the deal with you and Hugo anyhow?
What do you mean?
You said he's been there for you. There's nothing going on between you?
With Hugo? Absolutely not. We're colleagues. That's all.
Oh, if you say so.
Since you think you know so much, you're up first, Violet. Violet stands and takes the knife from Iris. You remember the drills? Do each of the 3 series 10 times each. With the dummy. She positions herself in front of the dummy as Iris steps back. Ready? Go. Violet flies through the series of drills, quick and precise. She completes the series as sweat drips from her forehead and flour spills from the cuts she made in the sacks. She turns to face the other women. Elizabeth's jaw is slack with awe. Hannah's eyebrows are raised. She's impressed. Iris is stone-faced, but nods in approval. Good. Hannah, you're next. The school bell rings to signal the end of the day. Students rush out the school's doors and down the steps into the courtyard. Violet and Elizabeth emerge together, heading towards the bicycle rack. Elizabeth glances over her shoulder, hoping to catch a glimpse of Ansel. She barely listens as her sister chatters on.
What do you think we'll work on today? To practice?
Oh, right. Probably more knife work. Iris is really into that.
I'm tired of waiting. Every moment we waste, Mama feels farther away. Are you even listening to me?
Sorry. You go ahead. I just realised I forgot something.
Are you sure?
Yes. I'll meet you there.
Violet raises her eyebrows in suspicion, but doesn't argue. She boards her bike and rides off. Elizabeth beelines across the square, but Ansel is nowhere in sight. Instead, she makes her way to a girl sitting on a bench outside the school, head down. She stares at her shoes. Elizabeth stops in front of her. It's Cornelia.
Hello, Cornelia.
Oh, it's you. Make your jokes and move along.
No, I wanted to check on you. I'm surprised you're here. I didn't see you in class.
I didn't go in.
You've been sitting here all day?
I couldn't face them.
Who?
Everyone. My friends. No one wants anything to do with me.
What? No one's visited you?
Too risky, apparently. Rumours have already started, saying my parents were rebels, bad Germans, you know.
Oh.
I meant what I said that day.
What?
I'll kill him, Elizabeth. He has to pay for what he did.
Cornelia, you don't mean that.
No, I do. I really do.
We can't talk about this here. Come with me.
Elizabeth stands and glances around her, ensuring no listening ears had caught their conversation. She hauls Cornelia up by the shoulder.
Where are we going?
Come on, we can talk more on the way.
The two girls walk down the sidewalk together. Elizabeth and Cornelia emerge into the secret cellar room under the Schadenfreude bar. Violet is sprawled on a couch, tossing a ball and catching it. HANNA is buried in a book about astronomy at the desk. They both leap to their feet when they realise Elizabeth isn't alone.
Shit, Elisa! What are you doing?
I'm getting Iris.
HANNA bolts for the door, heading up to the main bar. Cornelia's eyes are wide, like a deer in headlights.
Relax, Vi. Trust me. Here, Cornelia, sit.
She guides Cornelia to a seat on the couch.
I trust you. I don't trust her. This is the girl who tortures you every day at school. Are you crazy?
Her entire family just died, Violet.
That has nothing to do with us. With this. Cornelia, and I mean this with utter offense, what the hell are you doing here?
I want to help your cause.
And what cause would that be? HANNA and Iris march through the sliding secret door, arms crossed. It's clear Iris is seething, yet somewhat contained for now. She stops inches from Cornelia's face, dead serious, as she waits for her response. For the first time, Elizabeth sees Cornelia shrink into herself.
Killing Nazis?
Oh? And can you kill?
No.
Jesus. Another one. Iris tosses her hands in the air and heads straight for the liquor. Violet and HANNA join her.
But listen, Iris, she has contacts. With them, she can help us.
You're friends with them?
Cornelia, you were brought up around all of these men. They know you as their dearly departed friend's poor orphan daughter, an innocent, powerless little girl, but of good standing and eager to ensure they know you are loyal to the Reich. They'd never suspect you.
Iris stares at Cornelia hard for a moment, tapping her red fingernails on the bar top. She shoots her liquor. Who exactly do you know? Iris struts over to pull a sheet from over the board. A cluster of photographs of various Nazi officials and pinned notes are revealed.
Well, Wolfgang was a close friend of my father's. Some of these others have been to my house for brandy and cigars with them before. Frederick, Stefan, Antony. And their wives would visit with my mother sometimes.
And why would you want to get on their bad side, little girl? I'm sure you have a wealthy family member somewhere who will take you in and maintain your life for you. Why not do that?
Why should we trust you now, Cornelia? I've seen how you operate at school.
Let her speak.
I don't expect you to trust me. I know I've been cruel. My life must have seemed frivolously insulting to you. My dresses and bows and parties. None of that matters anymore. I have nothing left. All because Wolfgang betrayed my family. He murdered my brother. My parents are dead because of him. He took everything from me. I have nothing else worth living for now other than to make sure he pays for what he did, as brutally as possible.
Bloodthirsty? I like it.
She's kidding.
I'm not. You could take a few notes, Violet. Violet rolls her eyes.
I know what it's like to lose your family. I'm sorry. My parents are gone too. I'm HANNA, by the way.
I'm sorry. Were they taken to
the camps? We haven't heard from them in over a year. They killed my nephew in front of me. And would have killed the rest of us too if it weren't for Violet and Elizabeth.
Cornelia just nods sullenly, then eyes each member of the group.
What are you going to tell people? Won't someone try to take you away?
Elizabeth and I were discussing. We're going to tell school and the family that I've gone to stay with my mother's great-uncle Hubert in the countryside. He's very old and lives alone. I'm sure most of my relatives want nothing to do with the scandal, so they won't even bother to check on me.
You can stay for now, but you have to prove yourself, that you're willing to play by our rules. You'll have a test tomorrow.
I promise I'm willing to do whatever I need to.
We'll see. If you're successful, it sounds like your man is already on our list of targets. She points back to the board of photographs. Iris nods towards Cornelia, then shifts her gaze and narrows her eyes at Elizabeth. Now you. As annoying as it is that you are constantly bringing new leeches into my home, you're not a bad recruiter for the cause. Your mother would be proud.
She would?
You're a lot like her, always taking in strays. But no more additions. Got it? We must focus on the task at hand now.
It looks like our path is clear, no? General Wolfgang, Anthony, Stefan, Klaus, Christoph. They all work closely together.
Precisely. And we're going to kill every last one of them. Ideally, all at once.
Only after we've discovered what they might know about our mother.
Of course. Our strengths are their weaknesses. At their core, they're just a bunch of crazed men who think women are brainless bodies to fuck around with. We will leverage their lust and ego against them to get close.
But once we're there, how do we kill them? These aren't just random men, Iris. They're all highly trained.
If the plan goes right, we won't have to engage in direct combat. We get in, poison them, make it look like they killed each other, then poof. Our problems go up in smoke and blood, and no one will know we were ever there.
When can we do it?
Love the enthusiasm, but if we're going to do this, we need to do it right. We'll need to get information on their schedules and habits, procure the cyanide, and continue training in case things get messy. Oh, and all of you will need to learn to flirt. Iris's words hang in the air for a heavy moment. The women all look at one another, holding their breath. This is really happening. Think you have what it takes to decipher the coded letter? Visit our website's evidence section for clues to help you follow along with the mystery. Wicked Dames is an independent, self-funded production. If you enjoyed the show and would like to support our cast and crew, we invite you to donate the amount of your choice on our website at alisonhaselden.com/wicked-dames. This show contains explicit content and may not be suitable for all listeners. A list of all content warnings is included in the show notes of each episode for your reference.